going to go ahead and start recording the webinar now, and we're going to go ahead and get started. So this is the new Max Control. If you're not familiar, we're not calling it Max Control anymore. We're now calling it Act Cloud Portal, because that's really what it is. Put Act in the cloud, and this is the portal that allows you to manage everything. This is actually the 4th version of Max Control. Some people are saying, what happened to Max Control version 3? We got about halfway through the development process, and we started learning a lot more about webs, the direction the web is going with regards to responsiveness and being able to support mobile. And so we decided to take a step back, and we rebuilt the entire web application from the ground up to make sure that it was responsive. So everything you see today, you should be able to do on your iPhone or Android phone, as well as tablets, which is pretty cool, because some of the things I'll show you, while you may not be able to upload a database directly from an iPhone or something like that, you can use things like shared links from Dropbox and stuff like that to supply that information that you may not be able to do from a phone. We also have a new quoting system for those of you that are resellers, not wholesalers, but resellers. Basically, in the past, we've issued a service level agreement that had a quote attached to it. We've completely automated that entire process, and it's now available online. So if you log into Act Cloud Portal, you'll see the quote section over here under quotes. If you don't see it, please shoot an email to support@rtgroup.com, and we'll make sure that your account is enabled correctly for the quotes. All right. So I'm going to start off with a brief overview of what we're looking at. When you first log in at actcloudportal.com, this is what you get. And you can see, just looking at the URL, that's all it is. There's no page number or anything like that behind it. And so what we like to call this is either the home page or your account dashboard. The account dashboard looks a lot like the database dashboard, except for your account dashboard only has what we call, these are called widgets, and it only has 4 of them. And it is a cumulative of the information available across all of the databases that you have access to. So in this account, I have access to 3 different demo databases. And you can see there's 6 active users across those 3 databases. We have 5 remotes across those 2 databases. No one logged in yesterday, as it was a Sunday, and not many people use Act on Sunday, at least not the web version. But if on these bar graphs, if I hover over it, you can quickly see how many logins were for the last 7 days. A couple logins here and there for these demos. And of course, the amount of space that each one of these accounts is using, the total that each one of these accounts, these databases is consuming. We're only consuming about 3% of the allowed space. So this is the dashboard right here, made up of the widgets and a list of your databases. We'll get more into the databases in a second. On the right-hand side, we have what we call the activity feed. This allows you to see information about the database. So we've actually been recording this information for several years on the back end. And this has always allowed us to troubleshoot databases. If someone did an upgrade to a database, or we need to find out when it was upgraded, what was the version before, this is where we found that information. We can also see like what server it used to be on. We can also see with one of the new things that we have is different performance levels. In order to compete directly with SwiftPage and compare apples to apples, we've introduced an economy version of our hosting, which is very much slower than what you're used to with our services, but it's meant to be comparable apples to apples, speed and $signs directly with what SwiftPage is offering. It allows you to also educate the customers on what they're not going to get when they host it with SwiftPage. So this is the activity feed, and it shows you that type of information. We can also add notes to this. You cannot, but we can. So if a database has a problem, for example, with a custom table overflow or those types of things, we can add notes here so that we can tag these databases so that when we are working with them as well, we can see that, and you'll be able to see those database notes as well. So that's the activity feed. And then I want to venture over here to this black bar at the top. So there's no alerts in this particular account. The magic wand is the database wizard. This allows you to set up a new database, and we will go through that shortly. And then you have an account menu here. I want to quickly go through the account menu as it's pretty quick, and then we'll move on to how to add a database and how to manage database. Let me take a quick look and see if there's any questions. No questions so far. All right. So over here on the account menu, right now it looks like a little kind of an upside or sideways G. If you're familiar with Gravatar, it's an avatar repository where you can go out to gravatar.com and create a avatar that can be used across many different websites. You basically associate your email address with the picture that you want to. It can be your Facebook picture, your Twitter picture, whatever you want. And then when you go out on the internet and create an account using that email address, a lot of systems say, I need an avatar. They ask this system, Gravatar, what's the icon? And if you don't have one, you get this little powered looking G. But if you do assign one, you get to see a pretty picture. So that's totally something you can do. It's just laying out. Let's start with our profile. So by default, our profile is going to show us our username, our password. We can also change our password. Where is our email address for our account, and a couple other little things that so this is pretty basic stuff. Under your preferences, you can specify how many records you want to see. If you have a lot of databases, more than just the 3 that are in this one, or if you have a lot of fields and stuff like that, you may want to increase this. It's totally up to you. Be cautious though. It will slow down a little bit because you are basically downloading more data from the web servers. 50 is a great number to start with. And these are just some other defaults that are available to you. When we get into settings, if you're not familiar, Max Control had this thing called Max Alerts, and now we're just calling them Act Alerts. It allows you to be notified via email when things happen. This can be something as simple as a remote database was created. It can also be a database backed up, or even if it failed to back up. So you can be on top of your databases and your customers. This is great for people who have a lot of accounts because, with an Act database, the users are going to do stuff, and you have to be on top of it, make sure they're synchronizing and those types of things. So what we've built in is a alert system, and this has actually been present for quite a number of years. I think we're over 5 years at this point with this. And it allows you to say, I want to be notified when these things happen. So by default, you see here, I've set up, I want to be notified when a remote database has not synchronized in 5 to 9 days, or 20 or more. And so I can basically, I can add a new one. Let's say I want to be notified when a backup fails. So hit save there and go back to our settings, and you can see that's in there. Now, this is my default subscription. So if I add a new database, these are automatically going to be applied. If I change these, what I do need to do is I need to update the database subscriptions across all my databases. So we're going to go ahead and do that real quick. It takes a few seconds, and it's done. With regards to who gets these emails, that's where the notification profile comes in. So you can see here I actually have multiple. There it goes. There's the alert from the other one. You can see here I have 2 email addresses. This one's obviously very fake. Email address of who I want the alerts to be sent to, and you can add a new one as well. Now this is not where you would add a customer's email address. If you had an IT guy or a CEO or somebody who really wanted to know what was going on, like let's say the remote databases weren't synchronizing, or what the daily activity log was as far as regards to web logins, that's another alert that we have. You would actually want to create their own @Cloud Portal user account, log in as them, and then set this up. You would not want to add their email address here because, remember, this is across all your databases, and hopefully you have more than one database in our system. And they would be getting notifications for other customers, which would be very confusing to them. So it can be used for customers. You just have to set up their own @Cloud Portal account, and I can show you how to do that later. All right, let's just check to see if there's any questions. No questions so far. All right. Billing, this is for customers mostly. If you are a wholesaler, you may be paying us. So you can come in here and you can input your credit card information. You can also download your invoices. This is a demo account. Obviously, it doesn't have any of that. But customers can also view this. If we are billing the customer, they will get notified, your credit card is expired or we were unable to charge it. And it does include a link back to the system so they can update that information. This is all PCI compliant. We don't actually store actual credit card numbers. We use a technology called tokenization, which basically when they type it in here, it automatically goes to our payment processor, and our payment processor returns to us a token that can only be used in our account. And if we ever need to charge that card, we give them the token and they translate that back into the card. We also, of course, encrypt everything that we do have. So even if we were hacked for some random reason and somebody got out all those information, it would be completely worthless to them. So we're PCI compliant. All right. Teams. If you are If you are an ACC who works with several ACCs, and that seems to be the common growing thing among all of us, you can set up a team. The advantage of a team is that if ACC number 1 adds a database, ACC number 2 is going to be able to see that database. And that allows also ACC number 2's default alerts to be applied to it, and allows for that just sharing to happen instead of a la carte adding security to each database as it comes on. This is very important. The automated email support contact variables. If you've ever used our system, you see that we try to put your information in front of your customers. That way your customers can contact you. Because at the end of the day, that's how you're going to generate more revenue when they contact you for training or customization. We want to make sure they contact you. Now, we will support them, obviously, if they're having issues with synchronization or ask for web and stuff. But the last thing we want to do is take away from revenue that you could be generating for consulting or training. And software sales, of course, too. So what you put in these fields here will actually show up in a lot of the automated emails that come out of the system. Instead of seeing RTG, they'll see, in this example, J3 Software is this demo account. So these are very important. We try to default these for customers when we set up resell and wholesaler accounts. You can always go back and tweak them as your business grows. And I can see other team members here. If you want to add a team member, you do need to email us, support@rtgroup.com, so we can set that up correctly. SMTP accounts, this one doesn't particularly have any. What this can be used to, if you want all of the emails that come out of our system to go through your email system, so if you have support@j3software.com as an example here, you could provide SMTP information to us through the system and then select that account to be used. And all of the emails would go directly through your mail server. This cuts down on spam. You don't have to do it. By default, it's all going to come from noreply@myactdb.com. All right, so we've got 2 questions. I'm just going to pause real quick and read these questions. So Paul has a question about remote databases. Can we host a remote database where the customer keeps their master on their server, but the server, our host, it becomes aware the web users are available as a contingency in the event of a server outage at the client site? Yes, Paul, that is, we call that a reverse sync, and I will show you where you do that in the system. It's not as, it's something that I don't really recommend. What you're trying to do is definitely like the way to do it, but I don't like lead with that because reverse syncs are really contingent on the customer maintaining their synchronization and keeping their sync up. So it kind of falls back to the customer more to make sure that that's all working. We do have alerts that they can subscribe to make sure that their remote that is hosted with us is synchronizing. So I do encourage that. He also asked where specifically is the hosting servers located. We use TierPoint in Dallas, Texas, and also TierPoint in Oklahoma City. We operate out of 2 different data centers, and for that reason, all of the production that happens in Dallas and all of our offsite backups are in Oklahoma. There's a direct connection between those 2 facilities. All right, teams, the quoting system, we will we'll go through this a little bit more in detail, but you can see I have already created a quote for a company called CatCare, and it's been approved, and we'll get to why that's important in a little bit. And of course, a good old log off. All right, so quick. So I like this. These are called breadcrumbs. So you see the little home, if I click that, I go right back to my account. Also, I'm going to kind of venture down the rabbit hole real quick and kind of get deep in the system. You can also see, I can see right here what database I'm working with. And I can also go back to that database's dashboard. Remember I talked about the dashboard looks a little different. You see there's 10 widgets here. Again, you can always get back to the house. And there's also, you can click on @Cloud Portal or Dashboard, and that all 3 of those pretty much take you back to your account. Account dashboard. I got one more question. Let me go see who it is. All right. Oh, just thank you. Awesome. Sweet. All right. Let's see. Okay. So I want to talk about the left-hand side now. We've talked about the right-hand side and the account menu and what's in the middle of the page. Oh, and of course we have news down here. We do post news with regards to, hey, there's a new version of ACT available. Of course, everybody in this group probably knows about that about the same time. But we post here, hey, we have it supported. 18.1 is a great example. Here we have it, we're posting that it's ready to rock and roll. Go have fun. We also post notices about scheduled maintenance. We don't really have that much scheduled maintenance because of the way our hosting platform is set up. We're able to upgrade people when they want to be upgraded. I know Page recently did a big mass update, they kind of over the weekend kind of attitude, and that's definitely one way you can do it. In our environment, we upgrade you when you want to be upgraded. If you want to be upgraded in the middle of the day or in the middle of the night, that's fine. It's all scheduled, automated, and really cool. And we'll get to that in a little bit. So the news is down here if you ever want to see kind of what's going on. The database dashboard, so you probably saw me very quickly just click on the database name. A theme that you will notice throughout the system with these tables is that when you click on the name of whatever it is, maybe it's a database name or an act user or a field name, it takes you to the details of that. This little blue edit button does the exact same thing. And you'll notice as we go through the system, there are multiple actions that can be performed against whatever it is. When we get to users, you'll obviously have password reset. When you get to fields, you'll see field security. When you get to remote databases, you'll have, well, remote databases are really not that glamorous. You can add them and you can delete them. You can edit them, of course, as well for computer names and regards. So as you'll see probably by default, most of the time you'll see these two icons. Other thing I want to draw your attention to is this area. Above most of the tables, and I do apologize that it's a lot of gray. I was recently told that some older people with older eyes, it's hard to distinguish this dark gray. And we are working to make this gray darker so that it is easier on the eyes. So I do apologize for now. It's just something that hasn't been completed yet. You'll a lot of times see a plus sign up here. That's how you add a new whatever it is that we're looking at. You'll also see the download arrow here. So this is kind of cool. We support multiple formats across the entire platform. I'm just going to use Excel because everybody loves Excel. You can see there we go. And this is a relatively small list. So let me do this. Modified, scroll up, scroll up. Oh, wrong one. And there's our ACT database list. And it's kind of simple here. But if you are a wholesaler and you're doing your own billing with your customers, this can be very valuable. Number of users, when was the last time it's backed up, how big is it, and those types of things. You'll see these exports throughout the system. Field list, user list, those are great things. All the time customers say, we have 9 licenses, but we want to add somebody. It's like, okay, do you want to buy another license to get to 10, or you want to disable somebody? So I export that list, say, here's all your active users, and of course they quickly say, oh, Betty left 6 months ago. Let's make her inactive and put the new user in there. So that's also a really handy tool. Okay, back to the left-hand side. This gray area right here is database specific. So as you navigate through here, you'll see like security, it has to do with users and teams. By default, it's going to pick the first database. And so everything over here, think of it, if you use the old Max control, think about the black menu at the top. That's kind of what this is over here. You've got security for users and teams. You've got the design aspects, which are the fields and the drop-downs. You've got synchronization, which are your sync sets and your remote databases. And you've got add-ons, which is new. We'll get to that fun stuff in a minute. And you've got support, ActDiag, and the queue, which is, if you're familiar with that Cloud Portal, everything we do here is kind of queued up. If you add a new user, we're not directly doing that in the database the second you click yes. The way the system works is what I like to think of as queued, cached, and disconnected. So you can do things in that Cloud Portal, and then they are applied to the database in an orderly fashion when they're queued up and then they're applied. And you can even pause that, and we'll get to the advantages of that in a little bit. Let me just check the questions. When are we applying update 3 for 18.1? The answer to that would be probably this week. They seem to be applying or releasing updates relatively quickly lately, which is great. We're on update 2 right now, which I think kind of came out with 18.1. So we do try to apply them within a week's time. Sometimes we get them the same day. It just depends on the load and the schedule, and how much advance warning we have that they're coming out. All right, so we're going to go through kind of each one of these databases. So let's start with the database dashboard. If I kind of go back to my home account page, and I want to pick this database, version 17. I'm going to go through each one of these widgets and show you kind of what it is. Some of these are interactive. They can be clicked on, or they do things when you, they take you to another page when you click on them. Some of them present information. Some of them are just strictly informational. So when you click on your users here, right? Users and logins. Not a lot of people log in this particular database. But you can see here, there's 3 numbers here, and there's also 3 labels. Users, the active users, and the web users. So there's 12 users total. There's 4 active users, and there also happens to be 4 web users in this database. When I click on this, I go to the user management. Now, I can get to this multiple different ways. You can also click on logins, which would be the web logins, but again, it's still the user management. The other way I can do it is under security. If I click on users there, I get to my user management page. And as you know, I love these breadcrumbs, and I can always click on that and get back to it very quickly. So we're going to go over here to the next one. This is the backup. When was the last backup? You can see this last backup was actually just a little while ago. If I click on this, it takes me to the list of all of the backups. If I wanted to get the backup from the 8th, so I could go here, I could click download. There it goes. I'm downloading the backup. It's a relatively small backup, 11 megabytes, so it only takes about 5 seconds to download it. So you can see when it was backed up, and some people ask, what is this duration? That's how long it took to make the backup. So 19 seconds today. Last week, it was only 9. The servers were very happy when they created that, apparently. Not a lot going on. So I want to take you also across the tools. Each one of these tables, as I mentioned earlier, will have a set of tools. The plus sign, always probably going to be there. Create a new backup. So we support 3 different types of backups. We can do the normal backup everything with attachments. That's the default. We also we do backups without attachments and also attachments separate. For customers who have a lot of attachments and maybe go over their disk usage allowance based on the performance tier that they're paying for, we will sometimes do a compromise deal where we're like, look, we're not going to back up your attachments anymore, but we won't charge you. So that's one of the things that can happen. That would be a really good example. Like, let me have 20 gigabytes worth of attachments. And the problem is when you back up 20 gigabytes worth of attachments, it's multiplied times 30, and then that is also moved offsite. So 20 gigabytes times 30, that's 600 gigabytes that it's taking up on our on-site backup as well as off-site backup systems. So that adds up to about a 1.2 terabytes worth of disk space they're paying for. So if we take the attachments out, maybe we get down to a gigabyte. And that allows us to save money, but still provide all of the features of the attachments. And a lot of times customers are putting their attachments in Dropbox now and those types of things. You can also set, this is where you would set up the nightly backup option. So in that kind of scenario, you say, I don't want to back up the attachments anymore. You hit save, changes saved. And of course, if you ever need to restore backup because maybe someone hit delete lookup instead of delete contact, how many of you have ever had that? I'm sure many. You can always restore backup. So you go through and you say, maybe I want to do the no attachments, and you do have to type in the database name as a verification because we would be horrible if we accidentally restored someone's backup. So restore backup and overwrite current database, and that's what it will do. I'm actually not going to click this because it would interrupt the demo. But that's how you would go about doing that. The other thing that we do is, and I don't see it in this one, is we do still back up the database before we do a restore. So you'll see one here, like kind of like this one. It'll say _ before restore. So we will back up what is there. So we try to cover everybody's tushy if we can. So that's how backups work. And it was asked on the previous webinar, so do I have to come in here every day and back this up? No, 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 no. That's part of what this automation system does. We back up the database every night. You can see most of these happen in the middle of the night, as you would expect backups to do. And on the weekends, we also do the check on the reindexes. All right, so the next widget right here is the version. So some people go, whoa, what's that? What does all that mean? So as things have evolved, so have we. So this version, 17.2, most people understand what that means. S08. So with 17.1, Swift Page decided to start supporting both SQL Server 2008 and SQL Server 2014. S08 means SQL Server 2008. You'll also see S14, which means SQL Server 2014. Sure, we could have spelled all that out, but it would take up a whole lot more space and it wouldn't be as elegant looking. The E, sometimes you will see a U, a P, an L, or an E. So I talked about earlier how we support multiple levels of performance. An E is short for economy. This is going to be our slowest web servers. The customer will get one sync server and one web server. When you think of economy, think apples to apples with what SwiftPage is offering. The customer is not going to get support for add-ons. This includes our built-in ExactContacts iOS mobile app, as well as HandHeldContact, top-line tables, Durkin tables, or 123 sync. Those are just some of the examples of the add-ons. We do support a couple more add-ons, but no add-ons are supported. SwiftPage does not support add-ons in their environment, and nor does our economy performance tier. The next level up is our performance tier. Professional tier, I'm sorry. And that is pretty much what most people are used to with regards to RTG. You get the faster web servers, you get multiple web servers, you get multiple sync servers, and you also get support for add-ons. So even if the customer has HandHeldContact already, we will install a HandHeldContact configuration on our servers so they don't have to install it on their machine. It also includes ExactContacts, our very own iOS mobile app that synchronizes directly with the database, and that's free. There's no additional cost besides the hosting to get that. So that's a great value add that you should definitely put in front of your customers that want a disconnected mobile app that synchronizes when App Premium Mobile does not meet their needs. Been seeing a lot more of that. When I click on this, you probably notice it's a link. That's how you upgrade the database. We're actually going to go ahead and do this. So as you can see, I'm going to close this one more time. We're on SQL 2008. I want to keep this one on SQL 2008. I don't want to upgrade it to SQL 2014 yet. And the main reason I would want to do that or keep with SQL Server 2008 in this particular scenario is I've already got Act 17 installed on all of my remote clients. And if I wanted to upgrade to SQL Server 2014 on the server, I would also have to uninstall SQL Server on all of those remote database machines and upgrade them to SQL 2014. And in this demo, the customer's just not going to pay me to do that. So we're going to keep it with SQL Server 2008 so that when I create new remote databases at a later date, they're still SQL Server 2008, and I've got the maximum amount of compatibility with those PCs. So I'm going to hit Upgrade Schema, and I do have to type in the name of the database, and you can see the name of the database right here in the breadcrumbs. And so I'm just going to type Act 17, Demo, RTG, and you could schedule this. So like, let's say I wanted to do it Friday at 1 p.m. You can do that. I don't really want to do it at 1 p.m. What I want it to do is I want it to do it right now. So I'm actually going to kind of pick a 30 minutes ago just so it quickly does this and hit OK. So what's going to happen is we're going to see this database be upgraded from 17.2 to 18.1 and keep our SQL Server 2008. It's going to take a few minutes, and we're going to kind of go through a couple other parts of the system while that happens. I've got some questions. So ExactContacts, is it still on Apple devices? The answer to that is yes. It is still iOS. We are working to bring it to Android hopefully by the end of this year. That's just the kind of the tentative plan. All right, so let's move on to the next widget. This is our sync widget. So a lot of people say, whoa, what is this to sync thing? This is a relatively small number. I've seen hundreds of thousands of records that need to be synced on some databases. I like this widget a lot because historically we've seen it where a customer starts complaining about synchronization, how it's taking too long or it's just not working. And what we're doing now is that we're actually looking at the databases and we're saying how many records need to be synchronized from the master down to the remote and totaling that number up. What can happen is, let's say someone does an import and let's say they import 5,000 contacts or 10,000 contacts. Then they synchronize it to the master, and there's 20 remotes hanging off of that. They all need to synchronize those 5 or 10,000 contacts. And so what that can do is it's kind of like a tidal wave being sent through the sync ecosystem. It can start causing synchronization timeouts sometimes. It just kind of depends on the database. But you can also have a remote that if you have a sync ecosystem that's just, there's a lot of data coming and going all day long, everybody's really using the system, and you have one remote that's not synchronized. Maybe the guy's on vacation, or maybe that computer just isn't around anymore. He got a new computer, got a new remote, and the old remote is still hanging out there. You'll see a nice upward swing a lot of times on this bar graph. And that's kind of a telltale that there needs to be something done here. In that particular scenario, you might want to go ahead and just delete that remote, because what happens in ACT, and a lot of ACCs might know or might not know this, but the more data that needs to be synchronized to remotes, kind of the slower the SQL queries tend to run, because there's more data in there that it has to kind of filter through. And you can, depending on the database and depending on the amount of data, it can slow down the synchronizations, and you can start seeing SQL Server timeouts and stuff like that. So once you address the stale remote database, delete them, recreate them, that'll normally solve the problem. Again, back to the import scenario, you may see somebody imported 100,000 records and killed synchronization. That would show up here. You would see like a huge number and a huge spike as well. And the second number is just the number of remotes. If we click on this, it brings us to the list of remotes, which is, we can also do that by clicking on remotes on the left-hand side. Going back to the database dashboard. All right. All right, I had another question that is a really good question about what about version 18 licenses when you are upgrading, as I am in this demo. That's a really good question. And there's a new build of that cloud portal that we haven't pushed into production, that at the end of that screen, it actually says, make sure you add licenses. With regards to version 18, SwiftPage cracked down a little bit more with their licensing. And if you don't have a version 18 license in that database, Act4Web says, sorry, you can't log in. It actually just says error in the application, which is really helpful. So we actually do support licenses. I'm going to chase that rabbit real quick. Down here we have the licenses. And you can see here I didn't really add a license, but you can add one by hitting plus. You type in the new version 18 license or subscription license, pick the number of users, pick the version, and click is it perpetual or subscription, and you hit save. And our system will actually add that license to the database for you. It's pretty quick about it, and then you're good to go. You can log in. I've seen lots of, I can't log into Act4Web. Did you add a version 18 license? Well, no, I don't have it yet. Well, then you can't log in until you have that license. So I've encouraged my own customers to say, look, we have to schedule this and we have to have the license first. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to log in. The next couple widgets are basically informational. They're not interactive in any way. The number of attachments in the database, just the number for information. The space used for this particular database. This is a demo database, a relatively low number of contacts. And then we have our alerts. We talked about alerts a little bit more earlier. This one doesn't have any. There's no issues with this database. It's relatively healthy, and so that you don't see any here, but you can come in here and then you could clear them as you address them. And then you can see the subscription. You can see I added the backup failed earlier. And maybe I don't really care about this one. Maybe this customer is always not synchronizing, and I don't really want to know on this particular database when it's 5 to 9. The guy takes week-long trips. You know, he's always going to be in that scenario. So what I can do is actually just go in here and say, I don't want to know about that one on this database. I want to know about it on other databases, but not this database. And so you can see there I've disabled it, and I won't be notified if the guy hasn't synchronized in 7 days, but I'll be notified when it's over 20. You can also see the number of subscribers to those alerts. And we at RTG, we do subscribe to alerts to also kind of make sure that things are moving along smoothly. All right, and then the last one here is the status. So it looks like a play button, and it is. You can actually click this to pause the database. And what that does is, let me give you a little scenario to kind of make sure it makes sense. With Act4Web, they've added defined fields. Customers find the defined fields, which requires the database to be locked, and then they go in and they start hacking away at the fields. You can do that. But in larger rollouts where you may have users that are all across the nation or maybe even across the world, you're not going to have the flexibility to lock the database for 3 hours while you go into define fields and add this field and add that field and just take your time. With our system, and this has been around for a very long time, you can actually pause the database by clicking this here. Because this database is updated, I'm gonna jump to another database, and we'll go to 15. which has actually been upgraded to an 18. So I hit pause. You see here it says the database actions against the database has been paused, and they will resume. So in theory, now what I could do is I could go in and add a bunch of fields under the design fields area, right? I could add 20 fields, and those fields are not going to be added to the Act database until I come back here and I unpause the actions against the database. When I do that, Cloud Portal will very, very quickly lock the database, create those 20 fields almost like an import if you've ever used those tools out there you can get that will do those types of things, and then unlock the database. So the amount of downtime that your customer with a large customer is going to experience with all their users is very minimal. You can also schedule that with the customer, saying, okay, at 3 o'clock we're going to lock the database, and by 3:15 or 3:05, it should be done. And then you can go into design the layouts and do all that fun stuff. Let's see, I've got a couple questions. Carol asked if about the mobile app. You can go to ExactContacts.com and see more information about the mobile app. There's videos out there as far as how to set it up. It does not have to be paired with our hosting. Customers can purchase it if they want to just install it on their own, have nothing to do with hosting. So that's a great way to do it. It is not included with the economy plan. When thinking about the economy plan, I like to go back to the 90s where it was all about what would Jesus do. You saw the stickers everywhere. It's more like what would SwiftPage do in their hosting and for what they charge. And it's pretty much like just act in the cloud, and that's it. No add-ons, no custom access, no custom development, none of that. So it's kind of what would SwiftPage do? That's what we do with the economy plan, and we charge actually we charge less. Scott asked, I don't have a way to upgrade the schema from version 8, SQL 2008 to SQL 2014. Trying to change the schema gives me no drop-downs for the schema. Well, you can't go backwards. And I know that's not what you're asking, but if you're already SQL 2014, you cannot go back to SQL 2008 without some serious SQL Server hacking. I've been able to do that once, and it's something I would probably charge a minimum of 2 hours to do at my full rate. And I'm happy to teach anybody who wants to learn how to do it. But it's not something I recommend. It's not worth the investment. With regards to upgrading to SQL 2014, so this database here is actually, as you can see, it's on 18.0 SQL Server 2008. So I can upgrade it by going to SQL Server 2014. Now, it's going to move to another SQL Server and it's going to have a different name. So if you have synchronization, you're going to have to do a little bit more work than just upgrade Act, because you're going to get different sync servers. Well, maybe not necessarily, but you will get a different SQL server, and you will have to update that on there. So you can move. Also, some ACCs, as I would recommend, only have SQL Server 2008 installed on their machines. When you upload a new database, let's say that's new client with SQL Server 2008 backup, you can actually pick, I want this deployed on a SQL Server 2014 database, and our system will upgrade it. You can even provide us with a version 15 backup and say, I want this to be 18.1 with SQL Server 2014, and the system will actually upgrade that to the right schema, right SQL Server, and it's pretty cool. We'll actually do that in a little bit. Okay, and so back to just kind of finish the circle. Now I've hit play. Anything that was queued up for this database will be processed. All right, let's see how our upgrade is going. I wonder if I did something wrong. Okay, so did I pick the wrong date? Let's see here. Nope. We want to go there. Upgrade schema. I wonder if I didn't type it right. They should have told me. All right. It'll take that time. All right. I must have done something like select like 11 p.m. or something. I don't know what I didn't do right there. That's okay. We're going to continue going down the list here. So the queue, as I mentioned earlier, the way the system works is you make changes to a cached copy of your database. So the Cloud Portal knows about the users, the fields, the sync sets, the remote databases, and you make changes to those records in our system, and then we apply those changes to the ACT system, to the ACT database. So this is the queue, and it only, this particular little is like a mini version. It only shows like the last 25 things. You can see here there were some errors, and I fixed those errors before the demo this morning, and it was basically stuff that I had messed up in the previous demo, as always. And as you can see here in the top corner, we have the little arrow, and that's basically show me more, right? I want to see more about what's going on. And you can see here that the details, unable to retrieve database statistics, invalid ACT username, and whatnot. So you can see here other little things like we rolled out some sync servers, we added the ACT for web config as part of our automated system. So if you ever want to kind of see the log basically of what's going on, that's a great place. Ah, there we go. Migration phase. All right, it is moving. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So it's doing its job now. We're going to let that rock and roll. We're going to migrate over here to the server information. So as you can see here, these are all the servers that are configured. One of the most powerful things about Cloud Portal that I think is we automatically deploy the synchronization services and the ACT for web services. It's 100% automated. There is no human error. In fact, when we have to manually do it, which we avoid like the plague, there's always human error because the system, it's programmed. I think the beautiful thing about automation and programs, they get it right every time, unless some part of the technology changes. So you can see here, as an ACC, most of you will have access to remote desktop to go in and manage your database, your customers' databases via, you connect to the VPN, and then you have to know, okay, well, what do I connect to as far as remote desktop? So there's a couple different things here that I want to highlight. One, you can see this is, you can definitely see this is an internal IP address. And you see here, RDP, Remote Desktop Protocol. We utilize our sync servers for multiple things, synchronization as well as remote desktop. So this is the IP address that you would connect to with your username and password. The web and mobile URL, that's there just to kind of let you know, hey, you're on server 11 for this particular database. The SQL server, the database, where is it stored at? It's on this particular SQL server. This letter, the U, that's the drive. That's the drive letter, because when you get connected to this box, you'll have probably 25 different mapped drives to all the different SQL servers. And the U drive is going to be the one that has this database on it and you'll have access to. Now this, again, is much like the queue system, or the queue table over here. It's a little snapshot. And if we click on the arrow here again, we get to see a whole lot more. Some people, somebody actually asked me last week, they said, why don't we put the internet sync path and the network port and all that good stuff in there? And the answer is, this is like a dashboard. We can't cram everything in here, right? Oops. It's actually doing the migration. So you can see, great timing actually. So you can see now it's working to restore the database backup and migration phase. And it's also requested new ACT for web servers be rolled out and sync servers. And you can see there's a couple there. So it's backed up the database. You can see here now it's saying that we're an 18.1 database. You can see now it's 18 SQL 05. Before we were on 17 SQL 01. And just to go back a step and show you the activity feeds, we can see, I'm going to refresh on here. We can see just now the schema is being upgraded from 17.2 to 18.1, and we can see that the SQL server was changed from 17 SQL 01 to 18 SQL 05. So you can definitely see that that is going on. And you're saying, well, wait a minute, why does it say that down here? It's because I used this database last week as well to do the same exact thing. So let me see what questions we have. All right. Scott, we can look at that SQL issue after the fact. I'm not sure why it's not showing it to you. It shows it to me. Okay, so you have an 18.1 SQL 08 that you want to upgrade to 18.1, the same schema, but you want to move it over to the SQL version 2014. That should work. I'm pretty sure I've tested that, but I probably should just test it and see what happens. Okay, so Dan asked, why do I see multiple web servers and sync RDP servers for one database? because it's probably not economy. So if you look at the version, I mean, it probably doesn't have an E there. It probably has a P, and I can show you that as, let me chase that rabbit real quick. Let's go to one of the databases that's not being upgraded. So I can show you, I'll go back to this 15 because I'm pretty sure, yeah, it was P. So you can see here, this server, it has multiple sync servers and multiple web servers because it's the professional tier. So we have multiple web servers configured here, and the advantage there is our load balancer will send the first user to, maybe server 1, the second user to server 2, the third user to server 3, then the fourth user to server 1 as they log in. It's kind of a round robin, but it also looks at other factors like how busy is that server, how many total users are being accessed on that across the entire server, and we try to always send the user when they log in to the least utilized server within that pool. Now, economy users, economy databases, they're only going to get one. So all of their users are going to be crammed on one application, one virtual directory on one server, instead of being multiple. So that's why you're going to see a minimum of 3 with the professional tier and always 1 with the economy. And the same rule applies to synchronization. When you create remote databases in our system, let's say we created 10 remote databases for this database, right? The first one would be aligned to sync 01, the second one would be realigned to sync 02, sync 03, round robin, and round we go. So you'd have roughly 3 to 4 remotes synchronizing with each one of these servers. Again, we're distributing the balance of the performance, and we're having multiple web servers perform these actions. What this does is it allows it to scale. You can't set up one web server with one application and one virtual directory and one sync server and support per database really more than about 25 users. You need more, and just because of limitations. With web, it has to do with 32-bit processing and a 4 GB limit and the amount of RAM that each user takes up, and there's some math involved. And basically, you get to the top of that. And so by adding more and more web servers, you can support more and more users. And the same thing with synchronization. And even if, let's say, you cut 3 new remotes, you delete 2, like the system is smart enough to realign that and redistribute all of the remotes so that it's evenly distributed across the sync servers. Economy users, they're kind of stuck. They have 1, and that's great. If you've got less than 10 users, you can get away with economy. More than 10 users, I highly recommend our professional performance tier. I'm going to go back to the server information. Let's see. Carol, let's follow up on the ExactContacts question because I don't know that I completely understand it after the thing. Scott, you can't see other people's databases when you log in. If you do happen to see like the demo database, that might be one thing, but there is when you log in and you connect to the remote database, remote RDP, the remote desktop protocol, and you log into server 1 and you go to the U drive, you should only be able to see your databases. There's a whole Windows permission thing that happens automatically that takes care of that. With regards to, is that cloud portal available to older customers that are maybe on SQL, or not SQL, but ACT 2011? ACT Cloud Portal is our management product for everything. Max Control is dying. It's going away. Max version 2, we're running these in parallel. And basically because when we launched Max 2, we took away Max 1 instantly. You can use both Max version 2 as well as ACT Cloud Portal side by side. If I had more accounts, if I could log in as my account, you would see everything. I go back to ACT 13. We only encourage version 15 and higher as far as like new databases, even though we do technically still support 13 and 14 versions of ACT. The subscription is just changing so much. So many more people are just upgrading, going straight to 18, which is kind of good. Back to the services page, I want to finish up here. Here you can see the internet sync paths for each one of these servers, the network paths for network sync and the port, and here's the ACT for web. You probably won't ever really need these URLs because that's not how you log in. If you're not familiar with the way our web system works, everyone logs in at myactlogin.com with their email address and their password. You can clean the app pools on a specific server. Maybe you're getting some weird error with Act for Web. You can clean the app pools. You can also clean all of the app pools. If you want to always connect to a particular server, maybe you're troubleshooting something, enable always connect. You can also remove it from real-time production if it's, like I said, if it's giving you problems. And enable debug mode. If you're logging in and then getting redirected back to our login system, if you enable debug mode, it will no longer do that, and you'll be able to see the error message, and you just turn it back off. So that's the services, and we're still looking at version 15. Two more little areas. We actually hit the licensing one already, and then your Act install files. So as a courtesy, we do include the Act installation files for this version. If you ever want to send them to a customer, you can, of course, copy the link here and send that on to the customer. And all right, we have chased a lot of rabbits. All right, so if you want to manage users, this is the user login. Let's close one more thing. I'm sorry. Let's go back to this version 17 database that we upgraded, and you can see now it says migration complete. You can now see that the servers, instead of being 17, it's rolled out one Act for Web server and one Sync server for us. So that database is 100% upgraded. Let's go ahead and manage the users here. So you can see the active status. Are they enabled for Act for Web? With our system, you can actually segregate. Maybe you have a license for 9 users, but you only want 4 to be able to access it from the web. You can do that with our system. Again, you have the plus sign to add a new user, export the users if you need to do that. You can manage the password policy. Not a lot of people are doing this these days. You know, once you set it up, it's kind of done, but it is there. All right. And I'm going to add a new user. We're going to add Batman. And I'm actually going to put my personal email address in here. You can kind of see what happens here. And I want Batman to be a standard user. We don't need any vigilantes messing with the database. And we're just going to change this password 123, password 123, enable Act for Web Access. Earlier, I told you you could add an Act Cloud Portal user, and this is how you do it. It says my Act admin, but we need to update that. You would just check this, and it would create a user account for Jeremy Westhead at gmail.com with the password I typed in, and I could go to Act Cloud Portal and log in with that. I actually don't want to do that for this demo. And you can also enable Act Premium Remote Database. This is kind of cool. What it will do is it will create a Batman sync set that contains all contacts and all users, and then create a Batman remote database and email that to me as well. So I'm actually going to check that because I want to show that off. And then it's just all your normal other things. All right, that's been saved successfully. No, I don't want. I want to save the password. Let's see. Got a couple questions. Yes, you do. After you do it, especially with a version 18, after you upgrade a database to version 18, you do have to enter a serial, or you're not going to be able to log into it for Act for Web. Does the portal support versions of database licenses? Yes. When you add the license down here, it actually hit the plus sign. It says what is the version. So you could actually say we've got we're expecting Act to be around a while. So you could say, okay, this is a version 17 database. They added another user. You could type that in and say, oh, this is just a 1-user account, and it would be perpetual. You could do that for sure. Remote databases. Okay, so you can see here in the queue, I just added Batman, right? And I wanted to set him up as a web user, and I wanted to also create a remote database. So you can see here, it added the new user, it created a sync set, and now it's working on creating a remote. So I'm going to use the left-hand side over here to kind of go check that stuff out. One, I want to see the sync set that it created. See, there it is, Batman, and it says all users, all. It automatically put all this in here. And if I wanted to edit it, I could come in here. By default, it's all users. It's going to send them everything. If you don't want that, then don't check that checkbox. But a lot of people roll out everything. Now you can see it has 2 remotes. You can see Batman, and it says the RDB is ready for download. So if I just click on the blue here, and I say download remote database, and there it goes. And if we just open our little download folders, I know I'm on a Mac, and you can see it's downloading it, and of course, progress. bar. Oh, there it is. It's done. And I'll go back over there one more time. One more sort. There it is. The Batman RDB. It's only 18 megabytes. It's not a huge database. While we're in here with the remote databases, I want to show you some of the stuff that it can do. Once you create a remote, and you can create remotes manually. Again, the plus sign, it's right there. If you click on sync and the remotes, you can go in, you can go through the steps of typing everything out. Pick the sync set, pick what options, who's going to be the primary user, and why are you creating the remote. Some of these two options are for accounting purposes on our side, so we don't have to ask you, why did you create this, who's the primary user, billing type related things. You can also email the user the download after creation, which is pretty much what it did. I'm going to show you my personal email in just a second, since that's the Batman's email address. And there's also this option called admin only database. This is if you are going to be doing work on this database, that is what you would create, an admin database. You would check that checkbox, and then we delete them automatically after 15 days. I'm going to go back to the edit of Batman. If I wanted to update the machine name, let's say IT came in and gave all the computers new names because Betty's PC wasn't good enough, and now it needs to be BC1234, whatever. Synchronization is not going to work. You need to update the machine name. Well, that's not cool. Oh, it's probably because this one hasn't been restored yet. Let's see if this one will let me do it. There it goes. So this one actually hasn't been restored either, but then you can come in here in Betty's PC 1234, update that, and it would update the computer name inside the master database. Also, if the primary user changed, sometimes you have a databases like Assistant 1, you can also see the sync stats. Not a lot of data in this one because it is a demo, but you can see the last time they successfully synced and also the last time they completed a synchronization. And that can be very valuable with regards to troubleshooting synchronization. One little hidden gem up here is this asterisk on the remote database list. And if I lost you, I apologize. I will show you how to get back to the remote databases. You can click on from the database dashboard. You can either click on this widget, or you can click sync and then remotes. And we're back to our remote database list. In mass updates, if you ever have the syscommit tab issue, and you want to apply the batch file to each one of the remotes on all the computers, it's a good idea to suspend all the remotes so that that problem doesn't synchronize back into the system. So you can come in here, you type in, just like everything that's kind of critical, you have to type in the name of the database again, and you can quickly suspend all the remotes so no one can synchronize. That gives you time to go around, do the syscommit tab update on all of the remotes, and then you come back in here and basically make them active again. So that's kind of cool, because in Act you have to do them one at a time, and if you had a lot of remotes, you'd spend 15 minutes just making that inactive. Scott asked about CAPTCHA or two-form authentication. It's something that we are working on. It's probably a much longer project with regards to adding it to myaclogin.com, where the user may get like a text code sent to their mobile device, and then they type that in, those types of things. We are working on them. We are having to rewrite MyAcLogin to kind of get up to snuff to be able to do those things, so it may take a little bit longer. That is something that we are working along as we move forward with some of our more advanced and higher performance security related hosting stuff. All right, so security, we talked about users, and I told you I was going to go and show you a couple emails that my email automatically got. So here's my remote database, and it's always dangerous going into a going into your personal email while doing a demo. So this is what Batman got, right? Here's your remote database. You can download it here. We've already downloaded it because we were in the system, but you can download it a couple of different ways. I didn't provide a serial number for the database, so it didn't include it. But it did give me the remote database. It would have given me the serial number if I had it in there, as well as the full install for version 18. This is everything a customer needs to set up Act on their PC in one nice, beautiful, pretty email. With regards to this one, if they need help, that on that particular account, RTG is the technical contact, so our information was merged in there. If it was your account and you're a wholesaler, your information would be merged in there. So that's the remote database information. The other thing, let's go back to Batman over here, that I can do. We talked about the edit thing, the edit thing, which is the same thing as click on the users. You also have send welcome email. So I'm going to send that to him, and what that's going to do is send him information on how to log into the web. I can also manage his password. Batman called and said he forgot his password again. So I can type in a new password. Maybe it's Robin this time so he can remember it. Or I can say, you know what, I'm just going to resend it to you and let you log in with and click the secure link and reset it. Financial institutions, medical institutions, they get a little freaky about when you ask them, what do you want your password set to? So that allows you to say, hey, let me just send you a forgot my password link. They get in their email, they click on it, they click on it, and then they're able to reset it to whatever they want. You never have to know the password. The last option here is this little medical bag. Delete Act4Web preferences. With Act4Web, sometimes deleting the preferences can be one of the troubleshooting steps that you can go through to see why something is not just happening correctly. Maybe the user's preferences are corrupted. You click this, it deletes the preferences, they log back in, and you start fresh again. It creates a new set of preferences. I think I just answered your question, Scott. All right, team management. Not a lot of glamorous things here. Again, add button. You can click and edit the teams. This is the same exact team thing that you have access to in ACT. As an ACT certified consultant, most of you probably don't need a tutorial on what those are and how they can be utilized. So I'm going to move on to design the fields. So again, we have our plus sign. If you want to add a new field, you click the plus sign, and it walks you through a very, very similar wizard that you would see in ACT. Which table are we adding this to? We'll say company, and we'll call it demo. Today is like the 22nd. Oh, not the 22nd. I'm racing the month long. It's only the 16th. Demo 1516, and we'll do character. Next, same exact options that you would see in ACT. So that's right. That's a defect that's been fixed in the next build. Drop default values, finish, and then here it says, at the end of the wizard, it says, by clicking the finish button, we're actually going to create this in the ACT database. We hit finish, now we've created that field. And if you wanted to kind of see the queue, see here it is. It says pending. It's not been completed. It's going to add a field. I'm going to come back to that in just a second. A couple other things. Here we're looking at the ExactContacts fields, right? If we want to change the table, you click the little table. Say, I want to see the product fields. Boom, there they are. Here are the product fields that you have. Actually, this doesn't look right. Let's look at that one more time. Groups. Yeah, group name. That might be a little issue we need to investigate. Company. You can see it's changing the different fields. You can also search. I haven't really highlighted this, but a lot of the tables have this little search in here, and it doesn't require the server to be reloaded or the page to be reloaded. So I type in address, and there's all of my address fields. Or maybe I want to see just the phone fields, right? Oh, if I could type the word phone fields, there they are. So if you have a database that has, I don't know, a couple thousand contact fields in it, that can help a lot. In ACT, there is no search. You have to just scroll through it and hope you find it. Again, you can download the list of fields, and you get the same prompt with the which format do you want in Excel, CSV, and JSON. If you're not familiar with what JSON is, that's just something that a lot of programmers use, and maybe you want to download that and automate something with that. Not a lot of people doing that, but it's part of our system. Drop-downs is very similar. Here's your list of drop-downs that you have, and this you can see it there how many fields they're linked to. You can also go in and manage the I'm just going to add a new value. Okay, there it is, and I hit finish. And again, the same type of thing where it says finish, and we're going to add that new value to it. So you can see that it's pending, and it's not, and it will slowly be updated. Again, the download and the add button and the search button, very common in our system, and the number of records per page. So I don't know, there are 27, so changing that wouldn't actually show you anything more. Synchronization, we talked about remotes. There's our remotes databases again. Again, you have a search. That's kind of cool. Sync sets. Okay, so this is one area that David wants to know, where do I add the drop-down for the field I just created? Okay, so let me go back to that. So I just created a field, and we were on, which table was that? Wasn't it like company? It was demo. There it is, demo. Okay. See how cool that was? I couldn't remember. I found it quickly, right? All right. So now I'm going to go in and I'm going to pick. And David, I think this is a defect. We do have a new build that we are about to roll out to the system, and I'm pretty sure this is a defect that has been fixed in the new build where it doesn't show the list. So I apologize for that. I know I'm demoing it, but it's something that has been fixed, and we should have that out. I'm thinking we should have it out in the next 48 hours. So I apologize for not being able to show you, but that's where you would do it. You would hit use drop-down list, and then it would show you the list, and you'd pick. Obviously, it's the field type specific, so you can't attach a character drop-down to a number field or a date field. So it does limit that. Sync sets. Okay, this is kind of important. Earlier, it created one for us. I'm going to create a new one because I want to show you how this works. And we'll just do demo, and then we'll do 5.16 again. I'm going to do all users because selected users always bites me in the rear when I add a new user and I have to come and edit it after I create the remote and have to fix that. So I like all users and future users. Then there's also the define the sync set criteria. Of course, you can do all, and that's all users, all contacts. But if you want to define the sync set criteria, here's what we've done. With Cloud Portal, in Max Control version 1 and version 2, we allowed you to actually create a query in our web portal. This is very complicated. It is always changing with the web, the way that web applications work. It's always changing. That's why we rewrote Cloud Portal so that we could kind of get ahead of that. So what we thought would be the best thing to do is rather than build an entire query editor, there's already one that's web-based in Act for Web. And you can also use the one in Act. By using the Lookups Advanced query, you can go in and create that same exact query, test the query with the preview button, and then save that query file. Cloud Portal will actually pick up all of the design files and keeps a catalog of them. So you can see here in this particular database, we've actually already exported the sync sets criteria out to query files, and it will do that for you. So even if you already have query sync set criteria and you upload the database, it will actually create all the query files and convert them into this preference of sync set underscore and whatever the name of the sync set is. If you want to create a new one, you would create you would go into into the database, and we'll go ahead and do this. My login, and I should be able to log into Batman's account with this. I think it was just password 123. Go ahead and log in, and let's go see. I did something wrong. Let's see, security. There's Batman. Sorry. Let's do this. Password 123, password 123, save. All right. Not now. Don't save my passwords. Okay, of course, it's not a supported browser. Let's do that one more time, and we'll get past that whole stuff. Gmail.com, password 123. Don't save my passwords. All right. Okay, so for sake of time, rather than continue down this road, you log in as the user, and you create that advanced query, and then you can come in here and attach that query file to the thing. And that is how we are defining criteria for sync set if it's more than all users, all data. Because with a query, it can be, where record manager equals, and then it gives you a list of record managers. Or it could be where anniversary date is greater than or within the last 90 days. Or there's a lot of different logic that goes into that, and it didn't seem like a good use of our development time to reinvent the wheel, especially when Act could change it at any time in their products, and we would have to update ours. So if you do create a new query field, chase one little rabbit here, you need to go and refresh the design files. And so over in support and diag, there's a little cloud here. And that would be where you would click this. We used to call this the max cache refresh. If you wanted to see if a remote database had synchronized since the last time it was refreshed, you'd come in here and say, refresh the max cache remote database. We've added a new one here called design files. You would do that, it would pick up the query file that you created in the query folder, and then you could use it. So it's a few more steps, but it's actually quite quick once you get rocking and rolling. We talked about remotes and sync sets. All right, let's skip over add-ons, and we'll come back to that. And I apologize for how long this has taken. AgDiag's technical support here. So how many times have you ever needed the sync logs or something, one of the reports for AgDiag for troubleshooting? You can create these AgDiag reports pretty quickly. I like to table row count, especially when I'm deleting users. I want to make sure that no data gets deleted, so I pull that beforehand. All right, so the reports are being requested from the system. While we wait for those to happen, this is the AgCloud portal cache refresh. Remember, everything you're looking at is not coming directly out of the database every time we click something. There's a cached version, kind of like HandHeldContact, where they take all your data and they put it in their cloud, and then it comes back down to your mobile device. It's kind of the same thing, where we have our own database that has all this design stuff. And if you ever want our system to go refresh from the database, maybe you manually added some fields or drop downs, or like I said earlier, the remote database. Of course, you can do refresh all and then click that, and it would go and do that. You have that was that. Check and reindex. If you ever want to check and reindex the database right now, you click the little circle, broken circle, it will check and reindex it. And then there's the unlock button. I love this button because users always make me push it. And since the defined fields were added to Act for Web, you know, it's like a version 1.0 of the feature, even still today. It crashes. The problem with that feature is that users go in there and they say, oh, let me add a new field to my database. And they do something and Act for Web crashes. They've locked the database and now Act for Web has crashed and they can't log in. SwiftPage says they should be able to log in and unlock the database. That's not the reality at all. No one can log in Act for Web now. So with AgCloud Portal, we've given you the option to unlock the database. You don't have to call us or email support or anything like that. You click Unlock Database, and we go and we unlock the database, and now the Act for Web users can log in, or the remotes can synchronize again. So that's that little button. It does a lot for, you know, as far as headaches and saving them off. Yes, Dan, I have, with regards to the product fields not being displayed, I have that as a defect. All right, so that's that. And then the queue task, this takes us to the exact same place that when we click on, we go down to the little micro queue table here, and you click the arrow, it's the same thing. It's just another way to get to it. All right. So, this database, we upgraded it. Now, this is on economy. I'm going to actually switch to a database. Oh, wait. You know what? We need to do one more thing. Oh, I forgot about this. So you have the green triangle up here. I'm not triangle, the green wrench up here for database options. So this is where you can change the display preference. So I'm going to change this to AgCloud Portal Demo Baby. And who gets notified if there's something wrong with this database, which is different from Max Alert. It's more like, who do we contact? You want us to contact the customer? Put the customer's name in here. You don't want us to contact your customer? Don't put your customer's email address in here. This is also where you would change the Act for Web timeout. By default, it's 20 minutes. You can change it up to 480 minutes, which I think is 8 hours, 7 hours, something like that. And this is where you would change the cloud performance level. So when I do premium, update this, I'm actually going to also change this to 90 minutes because I want the web timeouts to be bigger. And I'm going to save this in just a second. Detach from contract, there's a typo there. Detach database from contract. As I'm going to show you in a few minutes, when you create a quote in our system and the quote is accepted by the customer, it creates a contract. That contract is then attached to the database. So we know basically who to bill and what to bill them for. If you ever wanted to replace that database as a whole, You come in here to detach the database from the contract so that you could reuse the contract, and we'll do all of that in just a second. And your remote database preference. So we can hit Save Changes. And now, if I go back to my dashboard, you can see there's the title. And if I type in like baby, I only get that one. It has nothing to do with the database name, because most ACCs know you can't really change the database master database name very easily. So now I can quickly find, ABC Incorporated or whatever it may be. So that's the database options. And okay, add-ons. And then we'll go to quotes, and then we'll be done. So what I've done here is I've upgraded to performance level, and you can see like it hasn't rolled out all the servers yet, but it's working on rolling out some more servers. These will come on active very shortly. So I'm going to go back to add-ons, and I've already got the top-line tables installed on this database. Again, we have our arrow, our plus sign. We pick the add-on that we want to add. So we do support 123 sync now. That requires a little more manual setup on our side. We give you access to the server. You go in and configure Outlook and all that fun stuff for your customers. Q-Sales data, we basically add the fields to the master database to support the Q-Sales data. HandHeldContact and ExactContacts are a little more interactive, and that's what we're going to go through. So I'm going to hit Save because I want to add ExactContacts. Now, you'll notice I can't click on top line because there's not a whole lot to do when we add top line or Durkin's custom tables to Act for Web. We basically install the DLLs, and Act for Web will read, their programs will read the tables out of the system and display them. With ExactContacts and HandHeldContact, we need to know a little bit more information. Who's going to be the user? Batman and his bat phone. He wants ExactContacts. So what we've basically just done is we've requested the ExactContacts be set up for Batman and his bat phone. We can also go in and set up the custom minimum sub entity date. We want to synchronize everything back from January of 2015 and forward for the minimum for like notes and histories. All right, so there's Batman. This is not automated at this point. Someone will actually create this information and then type the pair code in, and then the automated email will be sent to Batman so that he can download the ExactContacts app and then put in the synchronization server and the ExactContacts pair code and all that information. So it's not automated. We are working on automating it. HandHeldContact, I'll go ahead and add that one as well, just so you see how that works. You click on HandHeldContact, a little different. Again, we click on the plus sign. We're going to pick Chris Huffman. What is his HandHeldContact name? ch@hhc.com. What is his password? 123, 123. Any configuration, notes, or all notes? All notes. And hit save. Again, this is not automated as well. Someone will configure this on our servers, and then this will become applied. Why are we doing this? Because when you upgrade a database, let's say from version 15 to version 18, by having all of the HandHeldContact information in here, we can make sure that we migrate that over. And it doesn't take us 3 days to realize that the users that were configured for version 15 aren't synchronizing, because all of their HandHeldContacts need to be moved over to the version 18 server. So it allows us to give the customers a better experience with their third-party add-ons. Dan asked, can a notification be created if a database gets locked? It's a really good question. The answer is yes, in theory, but it would require us to poll the database to find out if it was locked. If you really think that's like an awesome thing, what I would encourage you to do is create a feature request, and I'll show you how to do that in just a second. David asked, does it unlock all databases? No, it unlocks the database that we're working with. Remember, in the breadcrumbs, we can see which database we're working with, right? So if I go back to support and diag, right, I'm working with act17_demo_rtg. Everything is that we've been doing is to that database. So when I click unlock, it only unlocks this database. And if it's not locked, it'll at least try, and it'll just say, oh, it wasn't locked. So no harm. I think there was one more question. Let me see. So Carol asked, how do you add the licenses for third-party add-ons? We don't support the licenses in the portal because, like, for Topline, they don't actually implement any licensing in the web anymore. They removed that a couple versions ago. but you do have to have it for the remote databases. So, and you do have to still buy it. That you should always buy the licenses for any of these products, including like 123 Sync. Even though it's already installed, you still need to have licenses. But we don't track those, but that could be something that we do add in the future. All right. I think we've covered everything that's database specific. I would like to now go back over here to the quote system. Actually, let's talk about adding a database. I'm sorry. Let's do a database. Let's kind of add a new database. So I'm actually going to upload a database real quick. So I have already saved in here my FTP client for where's Dropbox? Dropbox. And I'm on a Mac, but that doesn't really matter that much. Just looking for my Dropbox folder. Dropbox. There it is. So I've got a couple databases here. Public. And then databases. I've got a couple demo databases. Let's do the version 15 database, right? So it's Act 2015. I'm going to upload that. It'll take about 10 seconds. I'm going to go ahead and upload that. I highly recommend the FTP upload. That's what FTP is for. It's relatively simple. There's a free FTP program out there for Windows called FileZilla. We actually have a knowledge base article on how to upload it, how to download it, all that good stuff. Highly recommend it. If you're going to be doing a lot of databases with us, install an FTP client. It's fast and effective. All right, so you can do when you set up a database, you can do a 30-day database demo. When you do that, it will ask you for the customer's information. If you are a reseller, if you are a wholesaler, it will not. I'm not going to fill out that form. I'm actually going to set up a production database. I'm going to set it up for a company I've created called Cat Care. And we'll get to dog care in a minute when we do the quote. So I'm going to put in the email address for me, because I want to be notified if there's anything, if I could type, anything wrong with this database. Maybe it's version 13, and I'm being told, hey, we're sunsetting 13, you need to upgrade, right? It's a version 15 backup, but I don't want it to be version 15. I want it to be the latest and greatest, SQL Server 2014 18.1. Paul, you asked earlier about uploading a remote database. This is where you would do it. It's called a reverse sync. And this is where you would flag that database to be restored as a remote database. And you have to do this because when you restore a remote, we can't change the name of the remote. And so you have to be pretty diligent about giving us the exact name of the remote and those types of things so that this works correctly. I'm not doing that today. I'm just uploading a traditional master, which is what most of you will do 99% of the time. All right, so we're going to upload, we're going to want at Cloud Portal 516 demo, and I'm going to call it Cat Care Demo 516. All right, and I hit finish. Now, I basically just requested that the system create that database name for me. Now, it's not going to create the ACT database. Just create the database name inside of that Cloud Portal. And you can instantly see this is in the breadcrumbs, that is the database that we are working with. So now it says we need to upload a database. Now there's 3 different ways. You can upload it via a browser. I've been seeing more and more issues with browser uploads because it's through HTTP, and it can just be very disruptive, and network issues can affect it for whatever reason. FTP is way faster, way more reliable, and less headaches. So I do recommend this. We also do support download from a shared link. So what I could do is I could go into my Dropbox folder and do something like this, where here's my databases, and I can create a public link, which looks like if I paste that in there. So that's the, like, you ever shared a file with Dropbox. You could do that and say, go get the file, and get the file, download it directly to the server. One of the things about this, though, is it's not, because of the way that it works, it's not very informative of what's going on, and like how much has it downloaded. It just kind of sits there and spins. Leave page. I'm going to refresh. I'm going to do the FTP for sake of time. Now, the file I uploaded to the server, this is the name of the file. I need the full name of the file. I'm going to copy that from my FTP, and I'm going to paste it in here. The full name with the extension .zip. So if you don't do extensions on your Windows computer, that would be an important thing to know. I hit submit, and it's like, oh yes, I know. And if I just refresh, just for grins, the file is no longer, well, let's see, refresh. There it goes. The file is no longer out there. The system has moved that file to where it needs to be. And now I'm going to hit finish. This is the process of now what's going on is we've given the database to ActCloud Portal. We've told it what we want the database to be called, ACP 516 demo, right? You can see here it's been uploaded, and now it's uploading it to a SQL server. It's already unzipped the file, it's opened the database, and it sees all the users. Now by default, it says here my contract was for 8 users, or actually, yeah, 8 users. So I come in here, I'm going to enable Chris Huffman, and then I want to set his password. Again, just password 123. Oh, I fat fingered it. Password 123. Password 123, and I hit save. I don't want you to save my password. All right. And remember how we created a remote database earlier by just checking a checkbox? We can do that again. And maybe I want to change Chris's email to, what do I want to change it to? I don't want to change it to my personal. Let's just do demo@rtgroup.com. And save. And so at the end here, if you've been using Max Control, if you've used Max Control before, you're very used to the non-automated way of doing things, where you add the users, you go in, you click every one, you make them active, you set the password, you send the emails, then you go and create the sync sets, then you create the remote databases, then you send those emails. If you want to do that, that's what this stop and exit wizard is for. It won't do anything. It will just load the users from the database, and then it's up to you to go make them all active. If you want to enjoy the automation that we have here, where it's going to send the email to the user, create the remotes, create the sync sets just like we did earlier, that's the save and continue. And I'm going to choose to do that now. Now we have a new database. You can see here the name that I supplied. You can also see that you can also see in here it's still working with it, right? Let's go in here. See, it's still working on attaching the database. What it's actually doing, as you can see there, it's upgrading the schema. Because remember, I uploaded a version 15 database, and you can see here in the activity feed, it says, warning, current schema is 15.1.87, and I'm going to upgrade it for you to 18.1, because that's what I told it I wanted to do. And you can see here, that's what it's working on. So it's going to take a little while to run the schema file against it. Then it's going to create the user, edit Chris Huffman's user. Then it's going to create the sync set. Then it's going to create the remote and then send all that out. So that's setting up a new database. Pretty painless. You'll notice that we didn't ask you for an active username and password for admin. We don't ask for that. We don't use that anymore. We have automated our system so that we can, 99% of the time, we have a successful upgrade. We have a successful restore. The database is up and running within minutes, and we're not worried about what the active username is to restore it. Now, we can't, if you zip password it, the system will not work. So do not upload zip password backups. All right, no new questions. Hopefully I still have most of you with me. All right, last section, quotes. All right, so earlier I created a quote which was approved for cat care. And you can see the details of the quote by just clicking on the quote. Here you can see it was for hosting, 3, and then the rate, right? And when it was approved, it was accepted the same day. Again, we have our little breadcrumbs, not database specific, but as we are in a different area of the application. We can create new quotes. Again, hit the plus sign. We can also view pending quotes. This one's approved, so we wouldn't see a whole lot. We also have a follow-up system, and you can manage your customers. So let's say maybe we have bird care, which is managed by Tweety Bird, and we have cat care, which is managed by Sylvester the cat. So we are going to go and we're going to create a new company because this is a brand new customer. New customer. If I want to do an existing customer, maybe Tweety Bird called me up and he said, you know what, or Sylvester, sorry, we need to do 3 more users. I can send a quote. He didn't want to do 1 now, he wants to do 3. you can send a new quote. You send multiple quotes. You know, if they want to see annual versus monthly, you can do all that. We're going to create a new customer. We're going to go through the steps. We're going to call one called dog care. And red dog. Oh, red dog. Not God. 123 Easy Street. And some town in, how about New York? And 1234. And we're going to send that to my personal email address again so I can show you this quote that comes out of the system. And 225, we'll just put a phone number in there. And all right, back at the top, next. Now, you'll notice across the top, we like to use these tab kind of wizard things. You can't click on them, but it kind of lets you know like where you are in the process, right? So now it's asking me for the payer's information. Who's going to pay the bills? Red Dog is gonna pay the bills on this one. I don't need to put a controller or accountant or something like that. Maybe Betty in accounting would be that. And I'm also gonna let him be the implementer too. Maybe have Paul, the IT guy, who's gonna be doing that, and that would be the implementer. I don't really want to fill that information out because Red Dog is gonna take care of everything. So now we jumped right to the end here where we have our line items. What are we gonna add? First, I like to set a quote expiration. I like to use the end of the month, and it will default to the end of the month if you don't add one. So then you come in here and pick the product. So most of you will probably be using these right here, these hosting options. We do have some other things in there, overage if you know they have a big database and those types of things. But for hosting, let's do economy, annual. Now, I'm sorry that it's green. In Safari, it shows up green, and honestly, it's kind of light. It's hard to see. I apologize for that. In Internet Explorer and Chrome, it doesn't do that, but I am using Safari today. So I'm going to add a number of units, and I'm just going to do 3. You can see it just multiplies it times 3, and we have volume pricing in here. So if I go over the 5-unit mark, you can see it drops the price to $142.50, and then calculates it there. So I'm going to leave it at 5, and you can see that there, and then I'm going to submit the quote. So it says quote was created successfully, closes it. And then now you can see it's been quoted. Dog care has been quoted, and the email has been sent. Now I'm going to go back to my email, my personal email, which is always risky. That's the log. Oh, there's the login information. So congratulations. When I added apparently my password is 123. I can log into Axel Web. I'm chasing a rabbit here, so I apologize for that. The email finally came in. So I can go to my login. This is what the customer would get. When you send welcome emails, this is what they get. So welcome to ACK, congratulations. Where do I go? myacclogin.com. What's my username? What's my password? And browser support, you know, the setup instructions. If you're not familiar, you know, what do you need to do in Internet Explorer? Oh, yeah, you got to go enable cookies and trusted sites and turn off the pop-up blocker. All that information is there for the customer. All right, so now, let's see, where is it at? Okay, I'm still waiting for that. There it is, the quote for dog care. All right, so you can see here's the quote, and this is what the customer is going to get. Now, you as the reseller, you're going to get a copy of it too. And you can see my blunder on my caps in there, all of my errors. Of course, it's a demo. This beautiful, big, bright orange, accept quote online. It brings it back into our quote system. Okay, now I said earlier everything was PCI compliant. You can see here we've got the nice big SSL certificate with our name in it. This is for resellers. This is not for wholesalers. Resellers, your customers are going to be paying us for the hosting, and then we create commissions to you. Wholesalers, the quoting system, it's not for you, because if we collect the customer's credit card information, 1, I can't even read the credit cards because they're actually tokens, and 2, it would not be PCI compliant for us to give you that credit card information. That's like totally a big no-no. So for me to collect someone's credit card information and then give it to another person. So this is only for resellers and their customers. So your customer says, oh yeah, this is the quote that was in the email, I accept it. There's that big old SLA agreement, they read through it. If they want to copy, paste, save it to Word document, that's cool too. They accept that, accept. Oh yeah, you want to update who's going to be the implementer. Maybe they know about Betty in accounting. Oh, I want her to get all the invoices. They can update that, put some notes in here, hit next. And then this is where it says, how do you want to be billed? Now the quote was for annually. They can change that here if they decide, hey, actually quarterly works for me. And then they can type in their credit card number, and I'm just going to go ahead and type one in. And expiration, and type that in there, and of course the good old security code. All right, and I hit complete compliance. And of course you can see, look, we were portal with secure lock, PCI validated, make all the customers feel warm and fuzzy. The contract is now complete. Hit the next to set up. Now, this is where you can tell your customers, and we have it here. Note, if you're working with ExactContact, you don't have to complete this step. What this allows the customer to do is go ahead and set up an account in that cloud portal. They don't have to do that though, because you're more than likely going to be going back over here to in that cloud portal, right? Oh, well, I guess I can use this quick shortcut here, and you're going to set up a new database now, right? And you're going to say, let me refresh. Well, where's the new contract? Let's give it another minute to create it. Oh, it's just loving me today. Let's give it another minute. Okay, where were we at? We were logging in. Anyway, so they could create their account, or they can just totally be like, I'm working with the ACC. I don't need to do this. Now, I'm going to venture into my work email, and I'm going to show you that. And of course, you know, again, this is very dangerous, pulling up your own email. See, there's a quote. As an ACC, I got a copy of that, and I think that's just the quote again. And leave this page, close that. Let's go back to Safari and hit refresh one more time. Not a demo. Well, I'm sorry, guys. The contract's not showing up, and I'm not sure what I did wrong. But go into quotes, make sure that I accepted it correctly, because I've had customers say, I accepted it online, and you're like, clearly, oh, I didn't. I must have done something wrong. I didn't at the end there. I'm not sure what, but always a demo. Always in the demo, right? Works beautiful last week. Has a problem this week. All right, let's see if we have any. We don't have any new questions, actually. So that is, in a nutshell, that's at Cloud Portal, the quote system, how to set up a new database, how to manage a database, how to set up alerts, and let's see, we have this database, database restored successfully, and now you can see that it's version 18. It's working on creating that remote now, and it's all moving through. So if you have any questions, please post them in the questions section or in the chat section. Let's see, chat, is there anything in there? Nope. All right, so it's just questions. All right, no new questions. So I apologize for the length of the webinar. It took a little bit longer than expected. I do appreciate everyone's patience, and we will have the same webinar next week at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. And this one was recorded, and so will be the next one. And we'll make those available. Oh, the knowledge base, feature request, I forgot. So if you go to kb.axcloudportal.com, and we're actually adding a button inside of that cloud portal, a little help button at the top to help with this. If you go to the community, you can actually create a feature request. So you could create a thread. You can, once you have and this is part of our normal support system, so you should be able to log in, if not register, not a big deal. And you can create a thread. So any feature requests that you'd like to see, create them out there. It's kind of like the community where people can kudo and say, yeah, I want to see that. So someone had a feature request. I think it was Scott with the CAPTCHA and all that stuff. Definitely put that out there. That way other people can say, yeah, I want to see that added too. That allows us to make sure that we're focusing on what needs to be focused on. And also, you know, spend our time where it would be most valuable. The knowledge base, this is the documentation for at Cloud Portal, and there will be a link to inside that Cloud Portal, and it kind of goes over pretty much the same exact thing I did, where it goes through and it explains it, and there's just it keeps going through the different parts: activity feed, the account settings, billing, and view alerts. Of course, you can search for anything. One very common question right now is the API. How do I get access to the API? I want to play with Zapier. How do I do that? What's the URL for the API? There you go. We actually have clustered the API across multiple web servers, no matter which performance level you have. So if it's the 18.0 database, you would use this URL. Actually, that should have an S in front of it. And if it's 18.1, it would be this one. Of course, you also need that for the Office 360 web Outlook integration. I believe it uses the API as well, and so you may need that. So that is a very common question right now. And of course, you can search through this, like how do I create a remote? Create remote. How to recut a remote, right? How to manage a remote. Manage remote databases. And there's all the information that I've already provided with visuals. So I highly recommend kb.atcloudportal.com. If you have any questions, that's a great resource. So, Scott, yes, I did record it. And you are welcome, Dan. Y'all all have a wonderful, wonderful week. And let me know if you have any questions. You can email me, jwesley@rtgroup.com, and I'll be happy to help you. Thank you so much for attending. Bye-bye.